live in Over the Rhine, and therefore I think it's important to vote because we have to stand up for issues we feel are important. If we don't, then we can't complain about what the city does with our money.
You never know how close an election's going to be.
Who are you supporting today?
It is important to vote because you can make a difference.
I support PG Sittenfeld.
That's all right, you're going for it.
Yeah,
we like that.
We are, we're on the move.
Well, I think it's important to vote because women haven't always had the right, so I think we need to make sure that we still continue to vote.
I think it's important to vote in order to make a commitment to the city of Cincinnati.
In a democracy, the citizens have to be engaged.
John Cranley has said he opposes the parking lease, which would pay out $105 million to the city with $3 million per year payouts thereafter. He thinks it undervalues the asset, and he says that by giving up control of the parking enforcement, it could hurt small businesses here. My question is, on a scale of 1 to 10, how boring is it talking about a parking lease?
How boring is it talking about a parking lease?
That's right.
I don't know, that's an odd question.
Set to pay out $105 million up front and up to $3 million a year thereafter. On a scale of 1 to 10, how boring is it talking about a parking lease?
Parking, it's amazing what happens when people all of a sudden might have their parking meters leased and they come out of the woodwork and love their parking meters.
10 being the most boring, I would say 9.
Pretty much a 10. If that's the most, yeah, 10.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how boring is it talking about a parking lease?
5.
There's pros and cons, and obviously the money up front could be used to the city, now and potentially pay dividends later.
And how boring is it talking about a parking lease?
A 7.
Similar to how the asset is paying dividends for the city. So, I mean, it's not a straightforward issue.
How boring is it talking about the parking lease? I don't think it's boring at all because I think it's a very important issue, and I've never heard 105 million. I think the number's more in the 80 million range. It keeps coming down and down and down, so it's important because people should be talking about what's going to happen with city assets and how that money's used. So.
To answer your question, I mean, scale of 1 to 10, how boring is it? 8. Because it's boring, but I mean...
How boring is it talking about a parking lease?
Even more, definitely a 10.
Thanks.
As a citizen, you have to be involved, I guess, and actually get into the details and be willing to do stuff you're not necessarily like doing. So, in order to vote as an informed person.
Boring question, boring conversation.
And is that a good idea to balance the budget by selling off one-time assets? So.
Sorry, I just blanked there for a second. I fell asleep halfway through that question, actually.
You did. Yeah, I think most people would too.